maybe a little introduction to the audience. What are you doing? How'd you start it? A little bit about that.
Yeah. So definitely Malik Platts, head of business development for Teller Insurance and Financial Services. So work with Ezelfi Teller for the past 13 years. Karen knows him very well. He's the top African-American advisor in the country.
Okay.
We were both at New York Life together. He opened his own brokerage and I joined him once he did that. But I came to California with my mentor, Troy Carter, from Philadelphia. Worked with him, when he was EPing on the Eve show, and just built great relationships while being on the show.
Right.
So, you get backstage, you meet people, and I just, being from Philly, that was one thing that growing up in Philly, I can definitely contest that I was good at, is just building relationships.
Sure.
And now people that were probably, PAs or grips or, producers then are now studio heads and, big time EPs on movies. So,
right.
But they started back then.
Right.
So I cultivated those relationships, and I just think, I use social equity as a form base of, it doesn't matter how much money you have. There's some people that have a lot of money, but they can't get access.
Yeah.
But there's not too many places that I can't get access to. But that's just all predicated off the relationships that I built over the years. That's it.
No, it's interesting you say access, because I was watching Dr. Boyce Watkins yesterday, and he was talking about this $100 million that Jordan is giving to the Black community. And Boyce's perspective was, hey, the money's great, but what people really need is the access that you have.
Yeah.
And so I guess, kind of unpacking that a little bit, how important is that access?
Well, I'll put it like this, right? I was laying in bed one day, and I had a client at the Cannes Film Festival. I had a client, at 3 friends and a client. I've never been to Cannes. I was planning on going last year, and COVID happened, and it ruined everything. And it was a very, very wealthy individual out there, and his publicist called me to text my client to come outside to get him in.
Wow.
And he's wealthy.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, she's a B-list actress. She's doing her thing. She was in Black Panther and Marvel movies.
Okay.
But she had to come, but they had to call me all the way in. I was living in LA at the time.
Okay.
To text her to come outside to get him. That's getting access. That's getting access. Well, you can, it doesn't matter where you're at, you can move in any territory, any part of the world, how you always move.
Right.
So like even domestically, any city I go to, here, Houston, Miami, Chicago, San Francisco, doesn't matter. Like, I have relationships in those cities to where whatever's going on, I have access to it.
Okay.
But it's all relationships though. All predicated off relationships.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So thinking about financial planning, right? I got so many questions, but there was, I think it was called Earn Your Leisure. And I think the guy's name is Rashid. And he was talking about how he had a friend that was basically telling him that he wished he would have been a fireman. Right. And the friend basically was saying, I work a quick 30 and I get my pension.
Yeah.
And he said he was like, work a quick 30? Like, that's your whole life.
Yeah.
He was like, there's a different way to kind of think about that. So when a person first starts to think about, okay, I heard something like that, I also too was thinking about working a quick 30. What if I start to change my thinking and say, hey, how do I even start to think about financial planning? Like, what does that even mean?
It means to live off the interest of the things that you've accumulated.
Okay.
So the preservation of human capital, this is a lot of people don't know. You have to take your income you're gaining now, you have to times it times 20, and that's the amount of cash that you need to have within all your investments in 20 years.
Okay.
So if you make $100,000 times it times 20, you need $2 million. The reason for that, because 5% of $2 million is $100,000 of interest for the rest of your life.
Ah.
So that's the preservation of human capital.
Okay. Ooh.
So then what do? You have to work backwards. Okay, now 2 million is my number. Now I need to work backwards. Now what do I need to put away now in order to get to that goal in the next 20?
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying you have to wait 20 to get there.
Right.
But bare minimum, that's going to be your worst case scenario.
Right.
And maybe you need to put $3,000 away a month or whatever the number is. So if I put this away now, it'll have me on the path. Now, I always say God makes life happen 3 times a year. Things happen. This investment comes up. I have an opportunity for a multi-unit over here. Well, pull the money as investment opportunities come up and make those moves, but at least have your money working for you.
Right.
And you not working for your money.
Right. No, and that was another one of the jewels that I got from that episode. Guy was saying that one of his mentors told him that every dollar that he accumulates, he literally looks at that dollar and is like, now you've got to go work for me.
Yeah.
He was like, that's how he views everything that he makes. Like it's not a dollar that he makes that he's not figuring out or thinking, but also actually giving the orders, to that money that now you've got to go to work. Because to your point, you've got to have the money working. Like you said, as I'm accumulating it, the more I start putting it to work, the more I'm building for. Because even if you do it, because everybody's going to work 30 years to some extent, no matter what they do, right? Most people, not everybody, but most people. But what are you doing with that capital? So what type of instruments do people need to start thinking about or start using?
Well, it's based off the person's goals and objectives. So what I don't do is product push.
Okay.
I find out, all right, so this is how I fact find. Okay, how old are you? You'll be like 35. What type of, when do you want to take the have to off your shoulders and not have to work anymore? Where the interest off your investments is paying for your lifestyle. Somebody say 55. Okay, now I have a 20-year time frame. Okay, what type of income do you want at that time? Well, if I had $50,000 a year, I'd be cool. Okay, so remember the preservation of human capital. So there's 50,000 times 20 is 1 million. So now I need to get into 1 million. Okay, so you make $100,000. At the end of the day, after you pay all your bills, you have, let's say, $2,000-$3,000 left over. 20 to 25% of that should go towards investments.
Okay.
Right.
That
should go towards your investments. 20 to 25% should go towards savings until you have 6 months of your expenses and savings.
Yep.
And then 25% should go towards play. I would never say go on a financial diet. You should be able to play. But if you play, you keep it at a budget. So if your play money is $1,000 a month, that's what it is. No, it's not $2,000 and now it's $1,000. And you put $1,000 in your savings, and let's say your expenses are $4,000 a month. Well, once you get to 24,000 in savings, you don't have to put no more money in savings. Now you put $1,000 towards investments, so you put $1,500 to investments, and now you can put $1,500 to play because you already got the savings bucket full. Because if you're not making no more than 3%, then you're losing purchasing power. So money sitting in the bank is not making money. But that's just sitting in case of an emergency. You lose your job, something happened to your wife, COVID, emergency, like, you know what I mean? An emergency.
Real life.
Wow, COVID out of nowhere happened. Okay, at least I got 6 months to survive until I find something else. Yeah. So that's how you should. So I would never say a product. I would just say, what's the person's goal and objective? What do you want to accomplish? How can I help you? I don't want to push a product on you because the one thing that may be good for my ball player may not be good for my dentist. And the thing that's good for my tech exec may not be good for my veterinarian.
Gotcha.
Like it's not a cookie cutter type thing. The plane is custom. It's like a custom suit. It's custom to everyone's fit.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting too, because my business partner, even he gave me some of that advice. He used to do financial planning too, but that 6 months worth of expenses. He gave me that when I was first thinking about investing into the stock market, and he was like, before you do that, you need to make sure that you have 6 months of expenses. And I was like, I want to go in now. He was like, nah. He was like, you've got to have it. To your point, anything can happen. And I think that's tough for people. I saw a statistic that said uh, only 48% of Americans are invested in the stock market, and 57% of them don't have $500 set aside for an emergency. And I was like,
I
man,
believe it.
I was like, that's scary. Because an
Yeah.
emergency could come up at any point, right?
I always say life happens. God makes life happen 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Car breaks down, the water heater goes, something comes up. 3 times a year it happens.
Right. So let me ask you this: a person, starts maybe a session with you. What about the discipline to stick to it? Right? Where does that come from? Because I'm pretty sure you guys like check on them once a month, like to see if they're
So
here.
no,
Like
not once a month. We do an annual checkup.
Okay.
It's almost like going to the doctor, right?
Right.
You have to do your financial checkup.
Okay.
But the discipline has to come within itself. Like, it's nothing that I can, one of my proudest clients is a young lady. She's she's like I would say, you know how you go youth basketball,
Yep.
and if the kid gets hurt, you have the physical therapist there.
Yeah, sure.
But she's one of those, and I started with her like 8 years ago.
Okay.
And the fact to see the multiple thousands that she has in her account now, when she didn't see the vision then,
Right.
but now, didn't have a kid. Now she has a kid. Now she has enough money to put down on a house. And I've started with people to where they didn't even have a kid. Now they got 3 kids,
Wow.
And I started with somebody that was making $150,000 a year, pulled out $100,000 out of his investment with us, started his own company, now doing 1.2 a year.
Whew.
So when you need it, how you need it, I'll never know.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you got to stick to it. You have to treat it almost like a car payment. Just like it's gone.
Right.
That's why I always say it has to be comfortable yet meaningful, what you're putting away. Is $100 comfortable? Yep. But is it meaningful to your goal and objective? Will $100 get you to $2 million? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right. But it could be a start.
Different.
It could be a start just to start a good habit.
You can start whatever's comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm.
But little money gets little money and big money gets big money.
Fair
so
enough.
When you have to cut things out like coffee at Starbucks and lunches every day and going out to dinners, cut those things out and bring your lunch and make your own coffee at home and make your own dinner and cut the cable off and start streaming. And you'll be surprised at the money you'll find just doing all of those type things. But you could listen. I had a client starting at $150 a month 9 years ago. She put $100,000 a year away now. She hit it in action. So it's just, I never know when a person's going to hit.
Right. Right.
But she's still doing the same thing I told her at $150 a month. It's no difference.
Right.
The zeros just changed. That's it. You move the decimal to the right a little bit more.
Wow.
But you write the check the same way.
Right. No, but this is fascinating because it's as I'm thinking about it, it's almost like you guys are like personal trainers. Like you're trying to get people to start good habits that could blossom into anything. Once you kind of get those habits down and you start doing it, right? That's an interesting way to kind of look at it. So one of the things, I think another comment I got from there, this is one of the real reasons I wanted to sit down with you, because I think you bring this, to the show, to the channel. I think they said if you put $6,000 in an IRA for your 14-year-old daughter, it would be a millionaire at 40. Does that sound right?
Oh, well, it's depending.
Maybe 60.
It's depending on what the IRA is invested in.
Okay.
It's depending on what the market is doing. Preferably, like I have a client right now, right? He's putting $300 away into his son's life insurance policy.
Okay.
A lot of people think of life insurance, they think, what's the biggest amount that you can give me and what's the smallest amount that I can pay?
Okay.
I want to cram the most cash into the smallest policy because the IRS allows me to grow it tax deferred and I can pull distributions out tax free. So his $300 going to his son's life policy.
Okay.
At 27, the son will have $300,000. It's compounded interest. So he's starting from 0 to 27 of compounded interest. If the son never touches the money till he's 65, it'll be $1 million. And it doesn't matter what the market does. The market can explode. It doesn't matter what subprime mortgage does. It doesn't matter what business risk does. The life insurance policy is tied to a mutual fund. So the mutual fund is not attached to the market. So whatever the market is doing, going up and down, it's not affecting that particular policy he's in.
So hold on. So is this a whole life policy?
So a whole is two. So when people are investing, there's 3 ways that you invest.
Okay.
You make money, you stay flat, you lose money, right?
Okay.
If I can eliminate one of those, which would you want me to eliminate?
To lose money.
Exactly. So a lot of people don't know this about insurance. A whole life policy is like a mortgage.
Okay.
Think of it as a mortgage. It's growing equity inside the house.
Okay.
That you can pull the equity out whenever you have cash value available. An index universal life is attached to an index,
Okay.
say the S&P 500.
Yep.
So the S&P 500, whatever that does from year to year, whatever that's credited, that's what you're credited. But if the S&P does nothing, you make nothing, but you don't lose money.
Okay. Okay.
So with my clients, we do a mixture of both. The average person that uses insurance as investment has several. So when a person says, I already have a policy, I'm 100% sure they don't have what I'm trying to do for them.
Ah.
You see what I'm saying? I'm
Right,
like, I'm 100. It's ways that I can ask a question, a person can answer it, and I already know that they're not doing what I'm trying to explain to them.
Okay.
But this is more of a long-term growth. That's more long-term. Think 10, 20, and plus.
Right.
But if it's cash available, you can access the cash, make an investment over here with real estate, make an investment in the market. But there's no such thing as a perfect product. It's only perfect planning.
Ah. Okay.
The stock market isn't perfect. Insurance isn't perfect. Annuities aren't perfect. Real estate isn't perfect. So what's the best investment? Everything. You should have it all.
Okay.
You should have real estate. You should have money in the market. You should have a brokerage account. You should have insurance policies. You should have an annuity. You should, if you may make too much money to invest in a Roth, because if you're over $110,000, your income limited out. You can't invest in it.
Okay.
So you should have Bitcoin. You should have NFTs. Those are more things that are aggressive. And I only think you should have 10% of your portfolio in that.
Okay.
Because there's no regulation in that.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's my opinion.
No.
Since there's no regulation. So if you were a drug dealer, right?
Yeah.
And I came in the house and I stole your drugs, who are you going to report it to?
It's over. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the same with NFTs. And
Right.
If you lose your passcode,
yeah.
if somebody hacks into your system, but you should have it because it's given 2,000, 3,000 percentage.
Exactly.
But it's a bubble that's going to burst. Like it's going to burst. There's no way you can keep up that type of percentage.
Right. At some point, it slows down. Even if it does go to a 10 trillion evaluation, at some point it slows down. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a fair point. No, and even your estimate is in line because I've been into Bitcoin a lot lately. I'm a big Tesla guy, but I'm starting to really expose myself to Bitcoin too. But everybody, the smart people that I listen to say 1 to 10%. Don't go crazy.
You should, but you have to have that concept that even when just like this, the money that you take to Vegas is the money you put into Bitcoin.
I love that.
So whatever you take to Vegas is what you put into that. Now, could you hit 24 black and hit? Yep, you definitely can. Can you lose it all?
Yeah.
You definitely can.
That's
if you have that mindset,
right,
but don't have everything in it. Like I know somebody that bought in at 3,400. He has 19 of them. It's at 1.2 million. He only put 90 grand in.
Yeah,
but he still has a 30% tax implication.
Right.
That I have to help him out with. Because if he pulls, still a 30% tax situation. So you still will owe the government about $500,000.
Right. Wow. So I want to walk back a little bit though. This insurance one is really because I've been exposed to some of this, but I don't know it as intricately as you for sure. So let's take a small scenario, right? You have a son, you take out a $25,000 whole life policy on him, right?
So I wouldn't even see. So that's called So your target shooting right there. I wouldn't even target shoot on the budget is going to dictate the plan.
Right. Okay.
So whatever you're putting up monthly is going to dictate the outcome of amount that you're going to have as far as the insurance.
Okay. Well, the reason why I was using that is because I was trying, and maybe I'm getting this one wrong. I was trying to catch the part where you said put in more. I thought you were saying put in more, but have like a lower face value. Maybe.
Well, what I mean by that is some people get $1 million of insurance and they pay $30 a month.
Right.
But then some people get $500,000 of insurance, and the whole life you pay $2,000 a month.
Right. Okay.
So think of term as buying an apartment. You're never going to own it. But God forbid if anything happens to you, you have the coverage. Think a whole life is like it's a mortgage, but it's more of a down payment, but it builds equity inside the mortgage that you can borrow from. And you don't have to sign any loan documents. You don't have to get approved by a bank. If you got $40,000 in your whole life policy, you need $40,000 to put down on a piece of property, pull the money.
Wow. You're just borrowing it from yourself, correct?
So what it is it's you're lending to yourself.
Got you.
So you're lending to yourself. That's how you avoid the taxes on the back end. So when I grow this $2 million into your insurance policy, and you take, $10,000 a month interest out or $100,000 a year out, that's tax free.
Got you.
It's basis to surrender to loan to yourself. Okay. So you put after tax dollars in, and you're pulling tax free dollars out.
Wow.
That's why the Senate and individuals in Washington want to tax insurance policies, because you can't tax them.
Oh, they've been trying to go after them?
Oh yeah, almost definitely.
Wow. So that's how some of the really big wigs hide the taxes.
So John D. Rockefeller had a majority of his money in an insurance policy, and that's why the estate taxes, if you pass away,
right,
you have an $11.3 million exemption. Anything over that is subjected to a 40% flat tax.
Wow.
So Prince had no plan. Prince had no estate plan, no trust, no life insurance, no nothing. $500 million estate, $11.3 million shielded. Everything over that subject to a 40% flat tax.
Wow. So basically half of what he owned went to the government.
Not that 40% went to the government. And if you don't have a plan, the government will have one for you. It's called probate court. So now you got to go to probate court and pay lawyers for years to get what he could have just left you if he would have just had the proper trusted thing set up.
Wow. So I'm fighting to get the money from my dad.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You got to fight to get it, because it's called persterpes. It means next in the blood lineage. If you ever seen a movie called Brewster's Million with Richard Pryor, where his uncle left him millions of dollars because he was like his great uncle. So the courts have to find who's the next in the blood lineage to get what they were supposed to be left anyway.
And they might just take their time doing it while I'm paying the lawyers.
Well, COVID can happen. So COVID gives you a 2-year back wait. But if you have the proper living trust, or ILET, what's called an irrevocable living trust in place, that would avoid, the trust will skip the probate process and allocate the funds out to the proper channels.
Okay. Yeah.
So a lot of people think, I have a will. No, you need a trust.
Right.
Now,
I've been talking to my attorney. That's another thing I actually got from my my business partner. He got one set up when he got married. So I've been working on that one too. Once again, one of those things that you might have heard about on TV, and then you start to see how important it really is, especially once you pass away. And then what you just shared right there is a crazy lesson.
Aretha Franklin, no estate plan. Michael Jackson, no estate plan. Elvis Presley, no estate plan. So don't think about a person making money and knowing how to shift it to the next generation. Wow. They had no planning, no plans done, none.
Man,
all the money in the world.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about them getting postponement after postponement as your little girl or your kid is spending everything they got in litigation, and if they run out, would they just lose?
Hey, it is. I mean, it's like I always say, if you don't have a plan, the state will have one for you. You know what I mean? So you just have to, and like you said, where do you get all this knowledge from? They don't teach this in school. This should be this should be taught in school. You never use trigonometry in your life. You've never used, things that are taught in school. But the thing about it, society sets you up to be in debt. So you go to school for these years. They give you credit cards in college. They give you these big college loans to then come out to make $40,000, $50,000 a year. But you're never going to pay that $100,000 you owe back. Oh, so is it prevalent to go to college, or is it prevalent to start a business?
Right. Yeah.
Because I'd rather use the money for my kid to start the business and not be in loans, but he at least have more chance to get to that wealthier platform.
Yeah.
Than working for someone for 30 years.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I've just started to come around to that too. I was telling my lady, I was like, man, my daughter's not going to school for something specific, like to be a doctor or like something.
Yeah, a lawyer.
Right. I'm like,
you have to go to school for those things.
Right.
A dentist.
Outside of that, right?
Yeah.
Because I think Dr. Boyce said, he said, think about this. They'll give you a loan to go to college. That's way more than the $20,000 you might be asking for to start a business. Right. And I'm like, it links exactly to what you said. Like, they're educating you to get into debt and work it off, as opposed to saying, look, man, I don't need $300,000 to go to Harvard. Just give me $25,000 to 18 to start this business, and I'll take it from there. And you're going to get denied. But when I apply to Wake Forest and I need $254,000 for 4 years, you get
approved.
Right. It's crazy, and it's way more money. It's way.
They
more
want
money.
you in debt.
Right.
They want you in debt. You have to. That's society wants you in debt.
No, man. Listen, I think this is a perfect place to end it. It's so many different places we could go, so I want to have you back, man. Like, I want you to be a reoccurring guest. But this was good stuff. This was good stuff.
Man.
We'll leave some information. Where can they find you? Instagram, Facebook?
Definitely Instagram, Malik Platts, MALIK PLATTS, all one word. That's my Instagram, Facebook. They want to call me for consultation, 208-243-7514. Email address is mplatts, PLATTS, @Taylor, TAYLORINSFIN.com. Definitely, I would just tell people, just start reading. The crazy thing is, I'm going to leave it like this.
Yep.
It's only 2% of the people in the world that are wealthy, right? There's only 2% of Americans that have library cards, and it's free.
Yeah.
And it's free.
Wow.
So if a person says, I can't afford a book, a library card is free.
Right.
And only 2% of Americans have.
That's a heck of a statistic. Yeah, and I think Rich Dad Poor Dad started me into thinking that, like, that book was, probably top 3 books that I've ever read in terms of really turning the light bulb up and letting me see a lot of the stuff that you just alluded to, man, in this episode. So once again,
you should read another book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Outwitting the Devil.
Okay, now he did Think or Grow Rich too, right? Is that Napoleon Hill? Okay, I read that one. I got an Audible credit right now, and I'm gonna order that one.
When the devil's deep, boy, I'm telling you.
Okay.
Deep. The devil's basically telling you how he keeps the 98% where they're at.
Nice.
This is what I do. I defeat their confidence. I put them in debt. I do this. It's deep. Okay. It's deep.
I'm on it. I'm going to order it right now.
Yeah. Okay. Great book. Great read. No, definitely. Anytime you want me on the show, thanks for having me. All I want to do is give information to make educated decisions, and just move the culture, and I just want to, I never met a person that didn't want information to make an educated decision. I haven't met that person yet.
Nice.
So, so if anything that I could say to spark individual, we have the TV show coming out, Mind, Body, Money soon, reality show.
Okay.
So Zelfi is negotiating with networks right now. He has a book I call Ask the Expert, where you do have these basic rules of what we're talking about on Amazon, called Ask the Expert. So once the TV show comes out, you know, we probably some of the recognized nationally advisors in the country. You know, because a lot of people don't know who we are as outside of our realm.
Right.
You know, or the athletes or entertainers that we deal with. But this is where the nation is going to know who we are.
Okay. Well, yeah. Listen, man, keep me in the loop. I'm excited about that, man. And I really, really appreciate you coming on the channel, man. I appreciate you.
Oh, no, man. Thanks for having me, man.